We're just waiting a few more minutes to see who shows up. Wonderful, I see some new faces this time. That's nice. So while a few more people might still be filtering in just based on time differences and that sort of thing, but I might as well introduce myself. I'm Cali Buckley from CAA, formerly the College Art Association, and this program is called a coffee gathering. It's something that we do for RAAMP, which is Resources for Academic Art Museum Professionals, which is a Mellon-funded program to help with professional development of museum professionals. And we'd like to have these sort of informal discussions about once a month on a range of topics, which can include gender and diversity, issues with exhibitions, going into the virtual, which is something that Berit and Celka here will talk about at the conference, and I will also have a session at the conference discussing that. But we're open to any sorts of new ideas that you may have, and I hope you enjoy the discussion today. I want to introduce Berit Ness, who is here on, well, she's on my right. And also, let me look at my notes. Celka Straughn. So Berit is Assistant Curator of Academic Initiatives at the Smart Museum, and that's over in Chicago. You may have seen it if you came to our conference last year. And Celka is the Andrew W. Mellon Director of Academic Programs at the Spencer Museum of Art at the University of Kansas. So I want to welcome them both and get started on our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you, Callie. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Berit Ness. I'm the Assistant Curator for Academic Initiatives at the University of Chicago's Smart Museum of Art. And many thanks to CAA and to Cali Buckley for supporting today's program. This session follows a meaningful conversation convened by RAAMP last summer, where academic museum curators and educators gathered to share experiences, to learn from one another, and to commiserate around the challenges of our times. As educators with a focus on object-centered inquiry, this moment forces us to re-examine and radically rethink how academic museums can remain sites for teaching and learning in a completely reconfigured campus environment. And we've since jumped headfirst into fall term. And so now we have many new experiences to share with one another. The goal of today's program is to continue building a community of practitioners. Rather than presenting any kind of authoritative panel on this subject, this session is designed around participatory conversations with peers. And we'll be using, I believe, the Zoom breakout room function for more manageable discussions with a larger regathering toward the end. So I'm thrilled to be joined here today by Celka Straughn. Celka, would you like to now go over a bit more of the housekeeping in our Google Doc?
Yes. So, hi. I just lost all of you, but I think you're, okay. I lost you on my screen, but I'm still here. I'm Celka Straughn. I'm at the Spencer Museum of Art, and I use she, her pronouns. It's great to see some very familiar faces, and welcome to everyone. So as Berit mentioned, we're going to break out into probably 2 or 3 breakout room groups using the Zoom breakout room function. And this will give us a chance to have some smaller group discussion. I wanted to, and maybe I'll paste it after I stop speaking since that's how I mess things up, our Google Doc link, which you probably also received when you got the Zoom confirmation. And this will be a space where we can keep notes. Thank you, Berit. It's in the chat function now. Keep track of some of the conversations that are happening for kind of future reference. You'll see kind of toward the bottom of the Google Doc recordings from the previous conversation and a chance to share with colleagues who aren't able to participate today and to continue the conversation. We do see this as part of an ongoing conversation. As you go into your breakout rooms, It's also a chance to do some modeling of what you might do with classes, maybe also with your colleagues. So if you could have someone designate as a note taker to do the Google Doc, and however is going to best facilitate the conversation based on people's technology needs, and just kind of being able to have everyone share their voices. Just so you know, if you haven't noticed already, this session is being recorded and will be posted. We hope you're willing to kind of appear on screen, but we totally understand if you are not. I don't think the recording continues into the breakout room session, so you can appear that way as well. And I think that is all. So we're looking forward to having these conversations, questions, and just having a chance to learn from each other. So thank you all. And thank you, Cali.
Yeah, it looks like we have about 18 people. Maybe we should set up 4 different breakout rooms. Just so everyone knows, if you click on that link, you're gonna find that document and you'll see a few prompts. So the prompts we're gonna be looking at are, first, what techniques, platforms, or models have you found successful with academic engagement this fall, so that we can all share what everyone's doing? What strategies have you found successful for overcoming the many challenges? And of course, we all have those. And the third one is, what additional resources have you found beneficial along the way, including for self-care? So this document is just a way that everyone can sort of share what they've been going through and what they've found. And this will be a publicly accessible document. So, you know, if you don't want something out there, don't include it. But this is just something to sort of help the community consider what things other folks have been doing. And this is also something that we're going to be discussing at the conference. So this is just kind of a way to get everyone engaged and involved in sort of moving forward and seeing what else we can do. So I appreciate everyone participating. So let's see, with 18 folks, should we do 4 breakout rooms? Does that sound good, Berit and Celka?
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 sounds good.
Okay, and I will be out here, so if someone accidentally leaves a room, I can reassign you or answer any questions that you need. Great. And these breakout rooms should be open now. Great, I think we have everyone. So I hope that that was useful. And I just want to let you know that this is a living document, so you can always set up independent meetings with folks that you met here, or you can add to it as you like. And this is going to be available on the RAAMP website, which is part of the CAA website, as well as a recording of this and our last discussion. So these will all be things that you can use in the future as resources. And I've seen a lot of really interesting things. I'd actually kind of like to organize some of these for the future, because I saw a lot of things like in different areas. So some were about safety and having to deal with that and new ways of doing that, as well as engagement, which is always a big question, but even more so now, as well as sort of how to deal with the virtual in a different way than we've done before. But I was really interested in the different types of engagement, including role-playing and trivia. I thought that was really fascinating. You know, just ways of getting people engaged despite constantly being in this virtual universe and finding it very, very easy to get distracted or to find something else that's more engaging, perhaps. But also things that bring people together in a different way. The idea of magnifying and projecting things and having that accessible. And the ideas of, you know, you can't do everything virtually. And what things should you do and how to keep that safe. So, I mean, going beyond the whole idea that you should follow CDC guidelines and everyone should wear a mask, you know, how do you separate people? How do you get those smaller groups? How do you make sure that objects and art is accessible to everyone, either in person or virtually? And it was really interesting to see also the technology that people were looking at. So we actually have an entire list here of different programs, including High Fidelity I saw, Matterhorn, Kunstmatrix. So yeah, I'd like to kind of make a little diagram of some of these ideas that have been added here so that we can get an idea of, you know, if you're looking for new ideas for engagement or what to do in person, then you can find these right away. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being a part of this conversation and see if anyone had anything that they wanted to share from their breakout rooms. We had note takers from each of them. Would anyone like to share what they came up with?
Yeah, so you know, speaking on behalf of group 2, I suppose, it was just very nice to connect with colleagues and to hear so many sort of recurrent themes, you know, the theme of time, and that there's just a different kind of time that takes place in the Zoom room, but a different kind of planning time in advance of sessions. I think very much thinking about different modes of engagement and sort of cohort building and a sense of connectivity as staff, as you know, people who are engaging with students, but also with our interns. You know, we also spoke about the benefits of the virtual and not trying to necessarily replicate what we have done before, but trying to think with the technologies. And so those were just a few of the different recurrent themes. And then in terms of, you know, our own self-care, thinking about like the ways to set up work-life boundaries to the extent that that's possible in this new world of working from home a lot, thinking about, you know, scheduling oneself for their own time, whether it be a walk or a bake or something like that, but just scheduling your own time so that the work doesn't creep in further. Those are a few things that we talked about. And I welcome those who were in conversation with me and others from other breakout rooms to share to the group too.
Sure, I did have one question. And under here, in terms of engagement techniques, someone wrote story maps, and I don't actually know what that is. Can someone tell me?
So story maps, I think there's more than one digital tool. I can actually pop in the chat. I was just talking with an English class, sorry, it blurs. An English class today. And this was something that my colleague, who is our post-doc fellow in digital humanities, had recommended, just as a way. It looks a little bit more professional and polished than a PowerPoint, but a way for students to annotate images. That we've been doing that, you know, you can do it right in Google Drive. You can do group annotation, which can work well, especially as kind of pre-post visit type of activities if it is on site, or even synchronous. But this has been another tool that she recommended that can also have students think about the different facets of the work, and then they can reorder their annotations afterwards if they're making some kind of argument or trying to walk through in a particular narrative.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'm actually going to stick that link into the Google Docs. I think that would be really useful.
I already did.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Oh, that's fascinating. That was also
I
think that's also the group with art trivia, which is great.
We had Gary was sharing something he was doing with a class called High Fidelity, which sounded really interesting, and kind of how to translate for the museum. If you want to share with the whole group.
Yeah, so High Fidelity is a platform that I was introduced to this summer, and I've been experimenting it with my own class that I'm teaching at my university, and thinking about how to apply it for museums. So basically, it's a platform where you can download images high resolution and put them on a kind of like two-dimensional map, and then participants act as little avatars that can whiz around the map based on inputs from their laptop. And the whole thing is oriented around audio. So it's you talk to people based on your proximity to them on the map itself. So you can kind of cluster together around specific images. or specific sections of images and discuss them. And so I've been thinking about this as a way to translate the way that we talk about scale in museums to the digital sphere. So how is it possible, perhaps multiple people can congregate around the same object, but they're talking about a very specific portion of it without even seeing the entire object itself. I think also just generally it's a nice alternative platform to Zoom that kind of breaks us out of the kind of I don't know, tedium of this gridded interface that gives other people an opportunity to engage differently based on voice and sound rather than having to constantly perform for an image, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, it makes me think of when they used to build museums in Second Life, and you could use an avatar to sort of go into that. And we also had role playing in there as one of the ways of engaging. But with high fidelity, you said it's more like a map. So is it almost like you're looking at it like a game?
It's just a blank surface you can put anything onto, and so you can upload high-res images of objects in your collections on.
Oh,
on
great! Yeah.
Or you can upload anything like a still from a movie or a passage from a text you're reading, something like that.
Very cool. And someone else had mentioned something called Kunstmatrix. Let me see which breakout room that was.
That was me over at the University of New Hampshire, Sarah.
Oh, great.
The university doesn't supply, their website doesn't supply a place where we could have created a gallery. And so we reached out to Kunstmatrix, which is an application that you can do a monthly subscription for. And it allows us to actually have the visitor, have a gallery, actual gallery experience. And we uploaded all the images into each individual gallery with all of the text. And for one of our shows, the director even narrated all of the text too. So it was a very inexpensive way for us to provide a virtual experience for our audience, because we are open to the campus, but we are not open to the public. And so we still wanted to give our audience the option of being able to experience the works on view.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, there's a really interesting mix of recreating the experience of being in a museum and then also doing things that you wouldn't normally be able to do or adding to those experiences. So the whole idea of, getting those high-res images that people can see and having them able to look closely, which, to some degree you can only do in person, but even then, how much time would you have to look at something? So it's really fascinating to see all of these different ways of looking becoming sort of different.
I also posted the website in the chat just in case anybody was interested in checking it out.
Great. Yeah, I'll add that to the document here too. Oh, looks like someone's already trying. Great, now it's there twice. Great, so that was breakout room 1. We didn't hear from anyone in breakout room 3.
That was us, and yeah, Gary
Oh,
showed high fidelity, but
right.
I think we were also kind of talking about pros and cons of doing a recorded material, kind of the immense effort that goes into it, even if it's very low production value. How often are you going to reuse it, and that kind of spontaneity of that's lost when it's recorded, and you don't have that kind of spontaneous discussion. So kind of, I think going back to something Berit was talking about earlier about kind of time, and certainly we're all experiencing lots of new learning, and it takes time to learn all these new things. So.
Yeah, it's been a big discussion because there's a lot of sort of content that you reuse when you teach every semester or every year, but do you really want to present it in the same way? So it seems like there's a lot of sort of give and take in terms of, what should always be available. but also, you know, what should be, like you said, spontaneous. I think that's what a lot of folks are sort of missing in these virtual environments. Because even in a discussion like this, you know, you could sort of hide from it and sort of passively listen. But we really want other ways of people getting engaged and being social, just even just as a part of being healthy, I think at this point. So I'm really interested in seeing all of the different ways that the virtual creates challenges that we have to get around, but is also incredibly useful for others. I've also heard a lot about some children that are just flourishing in the virtual environment. So it's a really good time to sort of experiment and see what works. And I'm glad that we actually have a sort of repository for all of this.
I realize we're at time, but maybe a question for the next conversation is kind of what kinds of assessments, evaluations are you doing to kind of understand the role of your museum sessions and connections on campus and maintaining that. So, but I'm mindful people have already had to jump to the next meeting, and I know I have to jump to another meeting, but really good to see everyone. And thank you, Cali and Berit.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope that we do have a discussion about assessments in the future. And as I said, this Google Doc will be available, and I thank all of you for taking part in it, and feel free to share it if you know someone else with more ideas. Great. Well, I hope everyone has a good afternoon. Thank you, Berit. Thank you, Celka. And we will talk soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Kelly. Great moderation. Thanks for watching the chat and being able to pull all that out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sorry, I was like fast and like sticking things in. I'm so used to doing that now.
No, that's great. I'm not quite as fast as you. So
Well, no, it's hard when you're talking. So I was like, I'll let her talk and I can do that. So
yeah, I appreciate it.
throw you off. Bye.
Bye.